Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. We're moving on to the Wizard School of Evocation.
Indeed.
Almost through the book here, just about finished.
Home stretch.
If you're new to the channel, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the abilities of the subclass, and we're going to rate the subclass based on its RP value, combat value, and overall class synergy, and how the abilities improve on the base class.
We're building on a foundation kind of people.
Right. We're also doing a giveaway for the new Eberron book coming out, so make sure you comment down below and subscribe to the channel so you can get entered in that competition. That being said, we'll just jump right into it.
So it was with the kind of the Oath Paladins, all the wizard subclasses have a little bit of text underneath each one, and wizards are kind of different. Instead of being a thematic-based subclass, every other subclasses are just an individual school of magic. Evocations, your focus, your study on magic that creates powerful elemental effects such as bitter cold, searing flames, rolling thunder, crackling lightning, and burning acid. Some evokers find employment in military forces or because artillery to blast enemy armies from afar. Others use their spectacular power to protect the weak, while some seek their own gain as bandits, adventurers, or aspiring tyrants. Enough said. And of course, as with all the other subclasses, you get Evocation Savant, which, with your wizard spellbook, halves the gold cost and the time it takes to copy any evocation spell into your spellbook.
Also at level 2, you get Sculpt spells. Basically what you can do is whenever you cast an AoE area of effect ability, you can target 1 plus the spell's level number of targets automatically succeed their save against the spell, and they take no damage if they would normally take half on a success.
Throwing a fireball in a tiny little room, it might catch the room on fire, but your friends won't take direct damage.
Important things to deal with.
Right. Put the fires out later, it'll be fine. At level 6, you get Potent Cantrip, which is simple enough. As with the exception of ability like this, cantrips are if you roll, if you hit, you do full damage, or if they have a saving throw, if they succeed the saving throw, they take 0 damage. Well, this forces them to take half damage instead of 0 damage. A lot more useful and prevent them from doing a completely wasted turn if you use a cantrip for offense.
More reason to use saving throw cantrips instead of attacks, because you're going to get that guaranteed damage in there.
Right. And at level 10, you get Empowered Evocation. So at 10th level, you get to add your intelligence modifier to any 1 damage roll of a wizard evocation spell. Of course, so in that case, of course, by level 10, there's a really good chance your intelligence modifier is 5 or at least 4 by then. Should be probably 5 by then. So you're going to get a flat 5 damage on any evocation spell that you cast moving forward. So it's just, once again, just helps out with the floor of the damage. You're going to get an extra 5. And so then Jameson pointed out earlier, which is a really good point, before we got started, was that this becomes really, really effective in AoE-based spells.
Right.
Because that flat 5 on a single target damage is cool. It's an extra +5, so it raises that damage floor a little bit. But if you get a +5 on 6 targets, that's an extra 30 damage.
Right. For
that same spell, once again, on the floor of the damage for total, and spread that out. That's a nice little chunk of just free damage.
Yeah, the more targets, the more use you're going to get out of it, for sure.
Absolutely.
And lastly, at level 14, you have the Overchannel ability.
Right.
So essentially, what this does is if you cast a spell between levels 1 and 5, so a first level spell to a 5th level spell, the first time you do so, you can max the damage on the roll.
Right.
So you want to cast Cone of Cold level 5, boom, you're getting your 68d8, which is your 64 damage plus, because of your other ability,
Plus
your
5.
+5 for intelligence if you have a 20 intelligence score. So 69 guaranteed damage, boom, Cone of Cold, cone, out there. You can cast this again, but at your own risk.
Ooh, big boy.
Because if you want to cast it more than 1 time before a long rest, you take 2d12 necrotic damage for each level of the spell. So a level 5 spell, you will be taking 10d12 necrotic damage. Ouch.
As a wizard with a d6 hit dice, that's more than likely fatal. If you've taken any damage in combat, there's a really good chance that doing that a second time probably kills you.
Yes, and it does specify as well that this damage ignores resistance and immunity. So even if you're like, oh, well, I'm immune to necrotic damage, doesn't matter. You're still taking it.
You're essentially, as far as thematic goes, you're kind of forcing your life force into making the spell more powerful. You get that 1 freebie per day. Of course, granted, there's still a use for it, because if you're your party's all low health. You got 2 guys that are down, and the boss seems to be like, or there's 2 guys left that both seem to be doing poorly, and they're both, they're looking rough. Nothing else fails. Push the big red button, the self-destruct button. Still there is an option, but it is a hefty penalty, so you can't just keep using it over and over and over again.
All right, guys, that sums up each of the abilities. Pretty quick. A lot of these are pretty straightforward for this subclass. So we're just gonna move right into the scoring section. First up, we have the RP value. As you can see, there is barely any, and by any I mean 0, basically, RP value, but we're going to give a half-point bonus for the description of the school, and also a half-point bonus for Sculpt spells, just because it lets you you can kind of do some weird stuff, maybe in certain situations, or maybe you need to, like, set a fire for an RP situation for whatever reason, but you're all like in danger of getting blown up as well, and you kind of like sculpt it around your party kind of thing. So who knows? You could technically niche use could use it for RP. So we gave it a little extra there. So we gave it a 1 out of 5.
We worked it up to a 1.
Yeah, we managed to find a way to convince ourselves to maybe give it a 1, but definitely not an RP. So that's definitely more on combat.
Which we do get the combat side. We gave this a solid score of 4 flumps. Primarily because every single ability here helps your combat. Sculpt spell helps your AoE. You can be willy-nilly with your AoE spells because your party is going to take automatic half or no damage. They're automatically going to save against any spell you throw in their way. You get the flat bonus damage for any spells. Evocation with your intellect. Overchannel having one free max damage spell. Probably the biggest reason why this isn't higher is because with Overchannel, there is a hefty penalty for using it a second time. And that's probably, if I can think of, the only subclass we've seen so far that it actually lets you use a capstone ability a second time, but there's a massive penalty in general.
Right.
I don't think there's any other subclass you've had that penalizes you for using an ability.
I don't think so.
So, unless it still has a niche use, but I guess part of the other things would be there's still not a lot of depth, I guess, to the combat. It's like, okay, here's a flat +5 damage bonus. Okay, your cantrips now do, half damage on save instead of 0 damage on save.
But it's a cantrip.
After,
like, in the early stages, cantrips, that helps with early on cantrips, but later on, and when we get to synergy, you'll understand why it becomes completely irrelevant.
Pretty much.
Sculpt spells is really not combat-based. It is, but it's not. It's not directly helping your combat output necessarily, because if your party knows that you, like for example, if you're playing different subclass and your party knows that you can't do this, they're just going to try to position themselves to not get blown up by your AoE spells.
Right.
There are certain circumstances where you're in a small area and you just want to get...
You're fighting in a cave or indoors, things like that. But you're right, most of your party is going to be smart enough to figure out, it's like, he can cast Fireball. Let's not cluster up together next to the same enemy if we can help it.
Then lastly, we have the overall class synergy. This is where things get really interesting.
Right.
So, because of the way Wizard base class works, there's only really 2 abilities that you can synergize with, which is Spell Mastery, which is at level 18. You pick a first and second level spell that you can cast at will, and Signature Spells, which is at level 20. So you can pick 2 third level spells that you can cast once a day without using a spell slot for level 3. Right. So those are the 2 main abilities that we look at for synergy. Here's the thing. There's a spell called Magic Missile.
It's a thing.
And it seemed like this was too good to be true, so I double-checked it, and Jeremy Crawford verified it, that this is how it works. It says in your Empowered Evocation ability, you can add your intelligence modifier to it.
Right.
Just so happens that with Magic Missile, you roll 1 time, you add that +5 to it, and it counts for each missile that shoots out.
Yep.
So you do 1d4 +1 +5
with every missile.
For each missile.
Yep.
So think about this. If you take that and you cast it, your magic missile at level 5, you're sending 7 bolts out.
Right. 7.
And then you're going to max the damage.
Right.
You're going to do 70 unavoidable damage, force damage, which barely anything resists force.
Right.
The only way that this is going to be avoided is if someone uses shield, pretty much.
Which, I mean...
So if you're just looking to guarantee, you're like, I want to hit this thing and I want it to take 70 damage, you just go Magic Missile. 7 shots, I guess. But
It's a 6-shooter with one in the chamber.
So when you get to level 18, there is no reason, I shouldn't say no, there's very few reasons to actually use cantrips anymore at that point, because you use Magic Missile as your filler spell kind of thing, because you can cast it at will.
Yeah.
So why cast cantrips that don't take a spell slot if you can cast Magic Missile,
which is guaranteed damage.
With a guaranteed, you're talking 18 plus 3d4 minimum.
Yes.
Minimum. 18 plus 3d4 minimum. At will. So that's really good. Your signature spells, you can take Fireball as a signature spell, and it's going to be that much more empowered because of your abilities that you get in here. Big synergy. And the thing is too with Evocation, a lot of these spells are area of effect spells. Any kind of area of effect spell is going to get quite a decent buff from your empowered Evocation. That being said, because of the cantrips becoming useless again, that ability kind of becomes moot. Sculpt spells is always kind of relevant, but situational. Overchannel again is good, but again,
it's a hefty penalty once you use it the first time.
Because
you gotta make that one time count.
It's very hard to not compare it to Tempest Cleric, where you can just max your lightning damage with Channel Divinity.
Yep.
Right.
And that's twice per short rest.
Right.
Eventually becomes three times. Eventually becomes 3 times per short rest.
So one time maxing something out versus, multiple times per rest, not even long rest. So it's kind of hard to make that comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, we went and gave the School of Evocation overall class synergy a 4 out of 5 flumps.
For those recapping, that's 1 in RP, 4 in combat, and 4 in class synergy.
That's right. And that pretty much sums up our thoughts on the School of Evocation. Definitely a combat-focused, very interesting AoE-focused build, for sure. You're gonna get the most use out of it being as it says, artillery specialist.
Yep.
Being able to blast big hordes of people away, being able to avoid blowing up your own party.
Yep.
It's a very cool thing to be able to do. That's it for this one, guys. But if you remember, we have that giveaway going out, so make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Yep.
Hit that thumbs up.
Yep.
If you enjoyed it, hit the bell notifications so when our new videos come out. Comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching.